I'm going to cover how to systematize and scale blogging as a business for an authority or niche style website, so that you can step back and let the blog content get published and grow on its own so you're not doing all the work. As you might know, I am kind of eyeballs deep into outsourcing $200,000 worth of content for a blog that I already had to really transform it from this content dump into a true authority website that gets a ton of traffic and ultimately drives revenue and profit for me. So in that, I am not actually writing any of the content myself. I'll explain where I'm at and which role I'm in, and I'm kind of not in a role. I'm kind of sliding back at this point. And anyways, how I'm doing that, because it is a ton of work, a ton of freaking work, outsourcing 10,000, 20,000, 30,000 words a day, getting it back, reviewing it, getting it published and formatted on the website, etc. Right? So yeah, if you want to build a blog as a business, hands off, this is for you. I'm going to show you my process for doing it and the roles and people that we need behind it, and talk about how I'm finding and hiring them. So let's go to a whiteboard here. And well, let's start drawing. First thing I always do when I get into a new business, and mind you, I have a lot of experience in the offline business world, and well, a ton of experience in the online business world too. So when I get into a business, and this includes buying businesses, that's primarily what I do these days. In the online world, I started my own thing. My online business there was kind of started from scratch by me about a year ago, and there have been other businesses over the last 12 years, going back to, well, 2008 when I started my first online business, which was an e-commerce business. There have been a ton of offline businesses. Yeah, and this is always the first thing that I do now when I get involved in a business, and that is develop out the org chart. Right? Literally, you want to think of the business as a system. I know that sounds cliche, but you want to build the system, map out the system, and then fill it up. So when I get into the offline business world, I will literally put together the system for, all right, how much or how many people do we have, and what are their roles going to be to do 6 million a year in revenue and say 1 million a year in profit. Right? What does that organization need to look like? All right, now let's fill that up. And then let's go out there and spend as much money on marketing as we need to get that 6 million in sales, right? And then we can start peeling back that marketing as the business becomes sustainable. But fundamentally, you don't have a business if you don't have the system and the people running behind the business. That's why I always go right to the org chart and develop that out and get the people and the systems in place. And then I can essentially buy in the revenue. So that's a whole kind of big value bomb there on the offline business world, but the same thing applies to the online business world. And that is how private equity groups, investors, people that are buying businesses as an investment do things. They don't get in there and they think, well, I'm going to start from the bottom up, and I'm going to work 80 hours a week and yada, yada, yada. And then I'm going to fill some roles and I'm going to do everything and I'm going to wear multiple hats and that way I'll make more money. But really I'm not, because I'm a slave to the business, yada, yada. No. Private equity groups, the guys that are making the money deals in the private equity groups, they don't care about the business itself. They don't want to know how to write a blog post. They don't want to know how to fix an air conditioning system. I'm in the air conditioning business offline. They just want to come in and manage the money. And what I do and what they do is build the system and then you fill the system with money, right? Granted, I know that is not how most of the people watching this video are going to be doing things. And that's not how I'm doing things so much in the online business world. I guess I kind of am. But well, anyways, let me just stop chatting about it. You get the idea. I know what I'm talking about when it comes to this stuff. This is how I'm doing it, right? So let's consider the roles. Right? And in this case, we're not buying a business that already has revenue coming in. We're starting from scratch. So we're going to want to fill the org chart from the bottom up. So what do you need to fundamentally run a content publishing business, a written content publishing business, a blog? Right? Well, you need content writers. Okay, so we got content writers. We need that to happen. Then we need people to edit. Let's say edit/proofread. Oops, I'm not very good with this tool here. I used to just use my Zoom whiteboard. I would literally just open up a Zoom whiteboard and go at it like that, because I know how to use that tool. Then I'm like, all right, I'm going to try an online whiteboard so I don't have to open up a Zoom meeting. There we go. We need people that edit and proofread them, and then we need people to format them in WP, and then basically click publish. All right, so we need people to do that. We need people to do content planning or keyword research. And then we also need people to do content ordering. Okay, content ordering / reviewing. Right, and I mean, we could kind of just organize these into a list, right? I mean, this is literally how it happens. Okay, I'm not sure why content writers is small. Let's make that a little bigger, 16, there we go, right? Somebody does content planning and keyword research. Somebody orders the content. The content gets orders the content from the content writers, and then after that they review it. So review would kind of be down here and just make sure that it's decent content. And then it goes on to somebody that's going to do the editing, proofreading, and then formatting them and publishing them in WP. And if you can literally go through this process fast, and spend the money behind it, you can publish a ton of content fast, right? So let's think about the baseline though. We need content writers. No blog is happening without it. And you as an owner are probably not going to want to edit and format and publish them in WP. Both of these things take a long time. Let's just put that down here. All right, so these are the things that you really don't want to do, right? And the cool thing about it is, or should not be doing as a business owner, if you're running a blog as a business or investment, you should not be doing these things. And you really shouldn't be doing any of this stuff either if you really want to have a hands-off investment. But this is kind of the most technical, and it's also going to take the longest time. I should say most technical, most monotonous. Oops. I'm really not doing well with this thing. All right, so we got this. I want to click right there. All right. These are the tasks, okay? So these are what you need to fill fundamentally first. Now, going up the org chart, when you're first starting out, you're going to be doing these things, or you can be. These don't take much time. So if we were to do this, I like how that came in a different color. Oh, not a different color. Not much time. It's not much time, and at least the content planning and keyword research kind of requires a visionary role. Or at least the mind of somebody that understands what the website is about and what you're trying to achieve. So I should say kind of long-term objectives. Okay. So fundamentally, this is what happens, okay? And these are things that you can do yourself as the blog content owner. They're not going to take much time, and they require a visionary mind and long-term objective / direction, meaning it's not easy to just pull somebody into this role and say, hey, you go do the content planning and keyword research and also order and review the content, right? Well, if you don't have somebody that has the visionary mind and understands the long-term objectives in the direction of the business, or in this case, your blog, they're going to fail in this role. Whereas these down here, these take a long time. They're the most monotonous tasks, and they don't really require that visionary mind because these people are operating under specific instructions, okay? So fundamentally, these are all the roles, and well, this is what you can do and doesn't require much time, and this is going to take the most time and be the most monotonous. I think that's clear at this point, right? So let's talk about filling these roles. Now, when you ultimately start out, you are going to be up here. Naturally. Okay? So you're going to be up there, right? And that's where you want to be. That's going to get you the most leverage of your time, short of simply stepping back. And I'll talk about how you can step back entirely. Down here, this stuff is all stuff that can be outsourced. Outsourced on project basis, right? And when I say that, I mean that you're paying the writers to write a piece of content. You're paying them per blog post that you're formatting, right? So now finding writers, that always becomes a challenge. I've got an excellent video on this, how to find excellent writers at low cost for your blog or niche site. I cover how I'm finding US-based writers at 2 cents per word. So literally 1,000-word article, 20 bucks. 2,000-word article, $40. Now, this works, yeah, I'm doing it, but fundamentally, in this, I'm basically going for new, underrated writers, right? And once you start ordering a ton of content from them and they get the reviews and the feedback, their prices go up. So you constantly kind of have that, I don't want to say struggle, but that shift where you got to go back, look for new writers. So do keep that in mind. I am fundamentally following this process. But when we find a writer that is really great, if they raise their rates, we will stick with them and keep ordering from them. But we're always looking for those hidden gems, that we can get at 2 cents a word, right? So when you're coming in down here, let's talk about the economics. Let's just say 0.02 to 0.03 per word. Let's just call it 2.5 cents a word, right? So now on a post, let's just say your average post is 2,000 words. I'm publishing a lot of longer form stuff. I'm really not going less than that. So 2,000 words equals $50, okay? All right, so go back and look at that other video, for how you can find the actual writers, okay? Then when it comes to editing, proofreading, and formatting them, for this, I'm going to Upwork and finding independent contractors that can do it. I'm publishing it as an hourly job, but I'm giving a time limit to each post, so I'm saying each post should take no more than 1.5 hours per post, right? Now, to pull this off, you need to have a format. Uniform format. Uninformed. Uniform formatting, right? So go into WordPress, create a post yourself and format it accordingly. Create the heading 1 tags, create the heading 2 tags. Put some sample images in there, whether that's finding stock images, and then also create a checklist. So on my checklist, we have things like the heading formatting has a featured image that follows our style, has at least 2 in-content images with annotations. It has been assigned to the proper author because they're not, even though they have a username, we're not publishing it under them, and it has been categorized, right? So we're checking all of those things. And they also have access to my stock image account, so they can go on there and find images. We're buying all the images from Adobe stock, and then if not from Adobe stock, if they can't find anything good, they can use Shutterstock, but they have to get my permission for that, right? So now we've got a timeline, right? So these people are getting paid 2 to 3 cents a word, right? So we know that a content piece of 2,000 word, 50 bucks. Right here, I said no more than 1.5 hours per post. I'm typically paying 10 bucks per hour on that. So $15, right? So one post out here to get it published, excluding my own time, is going to be $65 investment. Yeah, so I will say that, with the kind of content inflation, we're hanging out at about 3 cents. Some of the writers get a little bit more. Some of them are up around 4 or 5 cents a word. If they go above 5 cents, we pretty much cut them out. But then we got quite a few of them at 2 cents a word, that we're trying out. So let's just say we're at $65 on these posts, right? Now, if you're doing this and you're assigning it out to the content writers that you're finding using my process, and then finding them or assigning them out to formatting, you're not spending a ton of time on this. You maybe need, at my volume, I would say that I'm probably spending 3 hours a day on this. But mind you, I'm going for millions of words here in just a couple months. So I am constantly content planning, keyword researching, and I've got a whole video on the keyword research. I'm not going to find it right now, but I'll link to it below this video. Okay, so now in doing this, if you're doing a high volume, you're going to be working with a lot of content writers. You're also going to be working with a lot of content formatters and publishers. This gives you the opportunity to recognize talent and pull them up the ladder to replace yourself. Okay, and I've already started doing this. I haven't shifted the role over entirely, but what I do is I look for the best content writers, right? The ones that really seem to care about things. And then I ask them, hey, would you like to come on and do some other tasks? You can earn more money. We pay you at a higher rate, basically per hour for doing this stuff, and it's more visionary in basis, right? And then, if they agree to that, and I say, all right, well, let's, take a few minutes, jump on a call. I'll explain how I do our content research, and what the actual vision of the website is. If they've been doing either one of these roles for I want to say a long period of time, but just a couple of weeks, if they've done maybe 10 pieces of content or formatted and published 10 and they're really doing well, and then they clearly see what's going on and what you're trying to achieve, then it's easy to pull somebody up into this role and give them a little bit of guidance and then let them take the reins over, right? So I've got somebody that was a content writer for me, and I since pulled them up here and they're handling one silo of content for me now, right? And they're doing pretty well at that. So I'm going to start giving them more and shifting more and more over to it. But when you're coming into a business where you don't have a ton of revenue coming in and you don't have people in place, it's always best, I guess in any business, even when you do have the stuff in place, it's best to start out with kind of the simple monotonous tasks, see who recognizes the vision and who does the best, and then promote them upwards. So in doing that, now I can pull somebody up here at $10 an hour or $20 an hour. I'm not really too concerned about the cost, and let them start going out, content planning and ordering the content. And they're happy because they've got a easier, less monotonous job. They're getting a better return on their time. And I'm happier because now I can step way out of the picture and go up there. So that is how I am basically setting up my blogging business, building an authority website to be hands-off, and how I'm ultimately scaling it and growing it, because me doing everything forever is not scalable and growable, right? You cannot write all the content yourself. You cannot format and proofread it all yourself. You have to be able to outsource this stuff and hands-off it. And this is how I'm doing it. So if you guys have any questions on my process, drop them in the comments below. Otherwise, that's a wrap on this video, guys. Hope you found it helpful and insightful.